This is episode number 371 of WPwatercooler, our WordPress wishlist. This episode is brought to you by Serverpress, Maker's Desktop Server. They make local WordPress development easy. Check them out at serverpress.com. And our new show, The Query, go check out The Query over at WPwatercooler.com/The Query. We'll answer your questions. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog.
I'm Steve Zehngut. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
I'm Sadie Reed. I make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Sadie Reed Media on all the things.
My name is Russell Aaron. I do things with WordPress in Las Vegas.
It's Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg.
Go help us out on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler, where you can help and sponsor us over there. Hit the little subscribe button, click the little bell to be notified when we go live, like we just did right now. Hey everyone, how you doing today?
Amazing. How are you, Tucker?
Hey, it's going pretty good. We have a guest on today.
What?
Hey Helen,
I love it.
In the flesh,
All right.
real life.
It's me. I'm here. It's going.
You might introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm Helen Hou-Sandí. I'm the director of open source initiatives at 10up and one of the lead developers for WordPress core.
Yeah.
And what's
Good to have you on?
your 5.6?
Right. I am the technical lead for the 5.6 release cycle specifically.
Yup.
Helen's sort of a big deal.
Yeah. Kind of forget. So behave yourself, audience.
We got to behave ourselves first.
Yeah, I know. I was talking, not me. I don't know what you're talking about. I always behave myself.
I'm calm above the fold, but below the fold, I'm like, legs kicking. Like, I'm excited. This is good news, man. I'm like, woo. I'm doing a happy dance.
Just saying about behaving yourself, Russ.
It's a happy dance.
Okay.
You took it that way. That's your fault.
Anyway, moving on.
So
Jason, you had a question for Helen.
Yeah, I did have a question for you, Helen. So, like, you posted this tweet a couple days ago, and I wanted to have you come on the show and just kind of, I don't know, tell us a little bit about, like, what were you expecting to get out of a tweet like this, and what did you end up getting from them, and then maybe maybe we could ruin it for you and see if we can start throwing some other stuff
for people listening and not watching, maybe you should read the tweet.
Oh, that's so difficult. I have to do that now too? Okay, fine. I'll do that.
Just get off Spotify. What are you doing?
We could have Helen
Helen, how about you read your own tweet?
Let's have a dramatic reading of the tweet.
Yeah.
My own tweet.
it's like an audiobook.
I don't think anyone wants to listen to that. But it says, tell me what you dream of seeing in WordPress, whether your jokes or your most serious hopes. I'm not making product decisions, so this doesn't constitute a promise. I just want to hear about it and get my brain back into that mode again.
Nice.
The real question here is, how do you pronounce emoji smiley face? That's
it's just a way of, deflecting so that people aren't like, oh, you're being so mean by saying you're not making a promise. Because everybody likes to think I'm being mean online.
You're preempting.
No promises.
Yes.
When you say get into that headspace again, is it a place you have to go, like, remember you're a beginner, or is it like your technical side? Can you explain like what that means, getting back into that?
No, I haven't been very active in WordPress core for a while. I don't know, years, I think, at this point. So I also led 4.0, which was in 2014.
Cool.
And then 4.7, which was in 2016. And when I led 4.7, I was actually pregnant at the time, which, like, I'm actually, like, a fairly private person. So I was talking to somebody about this yesterday where they're like, oh, you share so much online. And it's like, I really don't. Like, it looks like I do, but it's sort of like a deflection method, right? Like, you talk about a certain subset of things all the time, and then people feel like, oh, you're sharing, and so they don't press on, like, what's actually private to you. So in any case, so I was pregnant during that release. I didn't say anything, partially because, like, I don't know, for people who've had kids, like you frequently keep that to yourself just until a certain point,
Yeah.
right? Where you're like comfortable and things feel like less risky. But also because like, you know, people are weird online and they might be like, you know, she was just being hormonal today, or she only, you know, she made that decision because she's pregnant. Like you just don't want people projecting like their problems onto
Right.
you, right? So anyway, so I kept that to myself, but I feel like after that release, especially with the REST API, it was really contentious. Like the REST API stuff is hard from a technical perspective to begin with, and then like the community side, right? And then there was also a big feature, which people probably don't even remember at this point, which was, I remember. But there was the theme installer in the customizer that had been worked on, and it just sort of hit a point where like it just didn't feel good, you know, and that's so hard to tell people because it's like I don't have like discrete feedback to give you, right? Like I don't have like specific things that I can list out and tell you, hey, you need to fix this so that we can get it in. It just felt like one of those things where it just didn't feel good. It felt like we had so much going on already. There was no reasonable way to ask people to work on it, you know, with the amount of effort that was needed to get it to that point, right? Like you can't ask somebody to be like, okay, work 100 hours over the next week to polish this to an ill-defined point where I just think it's okay, right? Like that's really unfair to people. And so, you know, I made the decision that I wasn't going to include that feature, and it was just this unpleasant experience, and I was just super burned out. I was just really burned out from community stuff, frankly. You know, there's just a lot of nastiness directed at me, name calling, that sort of thing, like which I've gotten relatively little of historically. But just the small amount that I got was like, you know what? I don't have to deal with this, and I'm having a baby, so I'm going to go do that. And then after that, I'll figure out something else to do that doesn't involve having 600 babies yelling at me, right? So that, you know, that's what happened. So I kind of took.
I read at a fourth grade level.
Right. Well, might be better than some of the stuff I've gotten. So yeah. So I kind of took a step back for, I would say, you know, ever since then. So the last like 3 years. And really focused in on like some 10-up stuff and, you know, what does it mean to be like, you know, running an open source project, and what does it mean to like be a maintainer and maintain our own stuff, right? Like all our plugins at 10up and like some of the other solutions we've built in the meantime. So how do we turn those into open source plugins or projects and maintain those in a way that's like healthy for a community? So I've been doing that for, you know, the last few years, and it's been nice, but, you know,
you got bored.
Thank you. Yeah.
No, I don't think I'm bored, but you know, it's like, you know, here's something that people want to do, and why not try it again? You know,
I was that same argument about childbirth specifically, that you forget after a couple of years how difficult it was.
I actually think that's a lie. I have not forgotten one single solitary detail about it.
I haven't forgotten anything either. And I wasn't even the one giving birth, but I was there, man. I just kind of did the same thing. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
Yes, speaking of the babies that were in the community, when you tweeted that, you didn't get a whole lot of people that were like saying stuff that were bad. It was a lot of
I was kind of hoping for more jokes, to be honest, just because. So like there was a post on Make Core, like the P2 blog for making WordPress, about like what's on your 5.6 wish list, but that's like a specific venue, right? Where like you have a WordPress.org account and you're participating in that process already, and you have some context and you're being more serious about it. And I just wanted to see like what kind of nonsense people would throw at me. Like I expected at least 5 jetpack jokes, and I got 0, which was like
we saved them all for today's show.
Matt Medeiros is busy right now. He's busy podcasting.
You think the first reply would be some sort of passive aggressive reply, like it'd be nice if WordPress worked.
It'd be nice if the security was there. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I got one from Ryan McHugh, but you know, we're friends. Like we know each other in real life, so like it's more of a joke, right? Like, but online, because like people watching don't have that same context, so it's really important to go back and be like, okay, like I know 1-to-1, like we'd be like, oh haha, that's funny, but like on Twitter, I'm gonna be like, I don't know what that means. Can you explain that?
And he didn't put a hashtag. so he didn't.
I'm very disappointed. Matt Medeiros did not have a jetpack, but he did comment with something about multiple plugin install. So, man, I'm disappointed in that man.
Comments. Yeah, I mean, most of these are pretty serious, and they're most of them are repetitive. That's the thing, is like none of it is like.
I was trying to come at it with something different. I saw the same kind of things where it was like this and this, and I was like, all right, where am I going to come from? And I think I had a couple. Good ones.
Yeah, I mean, they're like.
My favorite part of this thread, before we get to the actual stuff, is just your responses to everyone. You're like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's when sometimes you're supposed to put a smiley, because it's like, oh, I'm supposed to like diffuse this, but like I'm actually kind of being mean. It's like, I don't know what that means. Like,
explain yourself. Yeah, exactly. I love that. I think it's great. It's like just like in a tennis match, and you're just like, bah! Right back.
Yeah. I'm not saying anything negative about the person who said it. It's just that, like, online, I don't know what that means. Please, by all means.
Draw me a picture.
Right. Explain it to the audience.
So, do you want to talk about your favorite things that you got, or do you want to hear about what we want to say? Because I want to
hear what you have to say. How about you say what you want to say, and I shoot it down really mean.
There's only 18 minutes left on the show.
Yeah, I don't know if we have enough time for any of it. I don't know.
No, go for it.
Join us over on Patreon, and you can watch after the show.
We really should do that.
That's what I'm saying.
Patreon. Can we talk about? I want to talk. I want to say what I think.
What? That's so rare.
I know, it's really weird.
I've been having to pee so much. I'll be right back.
So someone recently posted this video of it was a WordCamp San Francisco. I believe it was in 2012, and it was the first time I asked a question at a State of the Word, and I'm recorded, and
I remember this.
And this was pre-theme customizer, and I was like, when are you going to fix the theme situation? The theme option, because it is a disaster of epic proportions. And that was right before the theme customizer was about to come out. And so the theme customizer, that was the answer, right? It's like, oh, and then I talked to like Openland and I don't know if I'm saying that right. And he was like, oh, the theme customizer is coming. And then there was like the whole theme customizer. So that was great and a good plan. But somehow, I don't know if y'all have noticed this, but now theme land options is like, it's a disaster again. It's like back to
theme options are back, man. And like, they're bloated, man. They're just, it's like
worse, because now there is also the customizer that has like 2 options, and then everything else is in the theme options panels again. And I'm like, I thought we fixed this problem. Wasn't the theme optimizer supposed to be getting more robust and more useful? Because now everyone's just stripping everything out of there, and the only thing in there is site identity and your homepage. Like
site identity, homepage, and additional CSS. That's all there is.
Is that a WordPress issue, or is that a theme developer issue? Right?
I think that's a theme developer issue.
Yeah, but I mean that's the same thing, and I don't know because I haven't built out theme customizer panels. But is that a reflection of something that is more complicated in the theme customizer? Why people aren't using it?
But that's an example of developers not following best practices.
Well, I mean, I could give you like the whole spiel about it. I don't want to take up like the next few minutes.
No. I wasn't.
Pay $25 a month and go to Generate WP, and you can generate your own option pages right there for you. Like you just choose, like I want a jQuery color picker and this, and like it will be so much easier. And you'll use the actual settings REST API, and you won't do whatever clunky thing you found in some tutorial written in 3.6. Like that's going to be a lot better, I promise. Like
just add it to your functions file.
I've seen some bad ones, man, where like the customizer, if checked, then like something else would show. But when you were in the option panel in the back, you had to check the setting, save the setting, and then the other option would show. So I mean, even the conditionality wasn't the same. It's bad, man. Like
it's back to the bad.
So since we're limited on time, I'm going to switch gears here, right?
Wait, I want to hear Helen's answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were just giving a wish list. Is she actually giving answers?
Sure, I can give you an answer. I'll try to make it short.
Bit of an answer. I'm really curious about this.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut her off.
So I think my feeling about this is that it doesn't. the tools are there, and like people are making their decisions, and you can say best practices or whatever. What I think is sort of like, I don't know, endemic to the entire WordPress space is there's sort of this like lack of creativity and a lack of forward thinking about things. And so we're all just like copying each other. There's this really great piece, I think by Ed Yong. He's like one of my favorite science writers recently about the US's response to COVID. But it starts with an example of army ants who sometimes end up in what they call a death march spiral because they follow each other's pheromones. And if they accidentally loop back on each other, then they can't escape it. And they just march in a circle until
That does
it
sound
ends
like
because they can't get out of it. And so so when I think about like what's happening in the like how people think of themes space, it's sort of the same. Like we see the same, like everybody's circling the same stuff all the time. And it's really hard for anybody to break out of it. Like you do see it every once in a while, but nobody actually follows that, right? And we're not asking people to like copy each other or whatever. It's just that like in theme land, the prevailing thing seems to be, let's make a theme that can serve everybody. I want a huge audience for my one specific theme, and that's I have no names for this because I don't use them. But like I've had the same blog theme for I don't know how long. But the issue is that there's a land grab, right? So people are looking for like a huge user base for one theme, and it's like, listen, this is not how people think of building websites, right? Like we have to fundamentally rethink what we think of our users. And so when you're thinking about like when somebody wants to make a website, your typical person is not going in thinking, I want to make a website and I want to put all this stuff together to make a website. They're coming in thinking, I need a website because I need a portfolio to show my art. I need a website because I run a coffee shop and I need to show that stuff. And what we've really failed at in the WordPress space is providing people with these specific things that show them what they could have, right? And that's what themes really need to have, with starter content, with full site editing that's being worked on. So what and like a block-based system, right? So what we need themes that target something smaller.
Yes.
Right. That are like, okay, this is what we need. They don't have to be like a whole new theme. They should not have a ton of code. It should be about defining some block patterns and some CSS, right? And this person can be like, okay, I found a natural looking coffee shop theme and that's what I'm looking for, right? This is almost like the CSS garden days. This is like taking us back 20 years. This is actually how people use the internet. They're not.
It is totally like a reconnection. Like we've gotten so far away from where people are and like all these different options and everything. It's like I think we need to come back to that more original, like what we had before.
It needs to be like plugins. You need to do one thing and do one thing well. Your theme should do the same thing, man. Like there's no way that you should be a taxi company, taxi firm, elegant golf, and escape room theme. Like there's no reason that those words should ever be in the theme. But I feel like that's exactly what we're doing. We're just saying like, hey, this theme is for groomers, hair people, and like this, and it's a wide net, like you were trying to say, and it's outrageous. It's outrageous.
All right.
Do one thing well.
Go on to your thing. I took enough time up with the theme customizer. It's been my pet peeve for 8 years. So
I'm gonna give a shout out to John Brown who replied to your tweet, right? Because he said it perfectly. But the media library needs an overhaul.
A huge overhaul.
The media library. I wait for every version of WordPress to do something with the media library,
even if it's just to like add a link.
Well. The media needs categories or tags or folders or some different way to organize the media.
I would take none of that if I could just see a better way of where my post is attached to and like where to go to get it. You know what I mean? Like just some kind of insight.
And here's the issue with the media library is let's say you are creating a site or a blog that is image heavy, right? Let's say each of your posts has 5 images. Once you have 100 posts, you now have 500 images, and they're all dumped into one single spot, and it gets disorganized very quickly.
Yeah, but if you do it on 2 different days, then it's in the 06 June folder, then it's in the 07 July folder.
You got to do it right at the end of the month.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my pick as well, just so you know.
Sorry.
Was the media library. I don't really care what you do in there. You can bring back the blog roll if you really want to, but I think the media library just needs to be fixed.
The one thing that I use all the time is a plugin called user switching. And basically it allows me on my site, if I have a membership site or I'm doing something with multiple people, I can simply find their username and click switch to, and then I'm logged in as them, and you can help them with customer support. If they're doing a WooCommerce shop, you can see what's in their cart. You can delete things. This needs to be in the core. This needs to be there.
I will just straight up disagree with, because I think people are not actually very good at user management, and you're going to end up in situations where people just add everybody as an admin all the time, and they're going to be able to switch into each other's accounts, and it's a terrible idea. That's something you need to specifically install and decide like that you want to have on your site. I don't think that that's a good core feature.
Happy face.
Happy face.
It's a happy face.
Yeah.
I think I missed a segue because we went right from media library into user switching.
Well, okay. Well, the thing about the media library is like people say, I want you to fix it. And the question is, what is broken to you?
Categories.
Right? Because like saying I want it to be fixed doesn't tell me what you think is broken, because this is a very large item. Right. So if we say let's say we want taxonomies, right? Yeah. Taxonomies have two issues. One is that they're not searchable. Like if you're just like searching in the search box, you still have to like filter, right? So we're still looking at a searchability problem. And the other is that you're still asking humans to tag all of their media, and especially today with so many people doing stuff only from their phones, right? Like this is a huge lift. Yeah. Coming from a phone. I mean, it's annoying, frankly, right?
I upload from my phone all the time.
Right, and phones are like iOS is only just now getting into the like choose how large of an image you want to upload, right? Which was also a problem. It's like I was throwing up like 12 meg photo posts, and it's like that seems wildly unnecessary. And so right, so those are things that like iOS is now solving. I think Android's probably done it for a lot longer, you know, for all its other flaws. But you know, in the media library, so like, you know, not to just like harp on something that I was working on, but like one of the interesting things that I've been working on for the last, you know, year or so is a plugin that currently uses cloud services just because like they're the easiest to integrate, but they use cloud services to automatically classify your stuff. So that can be your posts, it can be your uploads. So I'm actually running it on my site, mostly just to make sure that like I don't break it, working on it. But it like connects to something like, you know, Azure's image recognition service, right? And so as I upload images, it tags it automatically for me. Yes, and then the plugin makes it so that you can search those things, so that I can go back and be like, okay, let me search for sandwiches. Or let me search for whatever, right? So that's what stinks, is that that's not great for WordPress core itself, because we're talking about connecting to paid third-party services, right, that are not right. So the plugin is called Classify, and it ends with an AI, right, for like, you know, AI, artificial intelligence at the end. So you can look into that. I'm really enjoying working on that plugin. But like as far as like solving it in core, that's really hard. You know, like I think that we could turn on taxonomies and people could do it. Like you can do it with like a line of code, I'm pretty sure. But the problem becomes like, what do you think of people, like your typical person, right? Your majority user, how are they looking for that stuff? Are they really going to like filter stuff down all the time? Or do they just want to be able to search the way that they've gotten used to in their phone or in Dropbox or whatever, all these places that are using image recognition, which we cannot provide in WordPress itself?
Yeah.
So I think interestingly enough, like if we even just had something to say like, show me all my featured images I've used in post.
Yeah. That's a discrete problem that we could solve now, you know?
Right.
And that's what I mean. Is like, sometimes we do have to dig in deeper. So something like this, where we can dig in deeper and be like, okay, you say, I want you to fix the media library, but let's talk about like, what is a specific pain point that you have? Can we shape that into something that we could actually solve? And maybe that is something we could solve, right?
Yeah.
Can we, that to me on the surface sounds like probably a terrible query, but maybe we could figure out a way to make it work from a user perspective so that I could be like, okay, let me filter in to see everything I've ever used as a featured image. That makes a lot of sense, you know, and I think that we could look at it.
That sounds like GraphQL for the win right there. You know,
I think that's actually a key approach or a key problem that the WordPress community as a whole versus the dev team or the squads or whatever you want to call it. That's a gap in terms of like processing or approach, because out here in the community, it's like, okay, we want this fixed, and the dev team, which is exactly what you just did, is like, okay, how do we break that down to get to that? And I think that is something that the community as a whole doesn't do, is break the problem into these small parts.
It's just line 218. That's it. Just fix line 218.
So there's breaking stuff into small parts, but like you also have to be really careful not to lose sight of what is the bigger picture, right? Because you can just work on small stuff forever and not actually move the whole thing forward, right?
Well, that's exactly the problem, right? So I think like some of these bigger things just keep getting kicked to the next one, because there isn't a, you know, like, or maybe there is, and I just haven't heard it or seen it, is like a path to break those bigger things down. Like there's definitely like wish lists or whatever, but there's not like, okay, we're not doing this, but maybe we should, at the same time that we're, you know, doing 5.6, 5.7, whatever's happening, also have people over here breaking down these bigger problems so that those things could be pulled into releases in a minute fashion. So we both have the bigger picture and the smaller picture. I think that might be something that is missing overall in the development process.
Sometimes I actually do think that the editor project is a very good example of succeeding at that. Whether you agree from like a technical perspective or not, where it's like breaking your stuff or the backup pad or, you know, whatever things people are complaining about with the block editor, right? But the fundamental concept behind it is that it has taken a problem definition, right? So the real follow-up to my wish list tweet or post or whatever would be, what is the biggest problem that you have when using WordPress? Because what I really need to know is, what is your problem definition, right? So like your wish list may not actually relate to the specific problem at hand. It is just how you think of solving that problem. But we need to define the problem more importantly, right? So the editor project, people look at it as like, oh, you're trying to copy XYZ thing, right? Because I think that we're sort of bad at communicating the overall motivation. And I think that people are also not great at listening to it or finding the right source for it, right? Yeah. And that's not saying that anybody's done anything wrong. That's just like humans, you know? But the editor project is really about that fundamental problem of like, how do I make my site look the way that I want it to look? How do I make computers do what I have in my head? Because that is not easy. I mean, like, we as technical people know more deeply than anybody else that it sucks trying to make computers do what's in your head, right? And just so you just think about like your typical person who like uses a computer for like a couple hours a day, right? And they're out here trying to make the computer do the things that are in their head. And that's what the block editor project is really about. That's why it expands to include full set editing. That's why it's about visually being able to preview your stuff without being penalized for making a mistake, right? That's what it's really about, is about like, we have this fundamental problem of it is really hard to get WordPress looking and working the way that you want it, that you think that you want it to work. Especially
when you're going between short codes or text and then you have to preview.
Right. Short codes are an abomination. Right. So that's the thing. It's
I'm
like,
so glad you said that.
Thank you. You cannot have these like abstracted.
It's on the way.
You cannot have these abstracted methods of representation, right? That's the technical way of putting it. You can't have things that are not related to how they are actually going to look and feel to the person who actually has to use it.
Yeah.
Right.
I just
you made it work. You tried to shorten the code that goes in there, but somehow you made it longer and worse.
Right. You're trying to protect them from a technical perspective, but from like the actual representation.
In theory, it's amazing, but you know, like in the implementation, it sucked.
I wanted to follow up with that point.
I wanted to give Cosper his opportunity.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. No.
You don't have anything, Cosper?
Wait,
I mean, I said what I said on the on Helen's tweet, which is I would love if we could revisit post formats. I know that post formats still exist in WordPress core.
Sorry.
Yeah, but
it's traumatic for me. But
I know that I know that it is. I didn't mean to make it a triggering event,
Yeah.
Helen. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's just an ongoing joke.
But a post format UI for like the Gutenberg era would actually be an interesting thing that I would like to see, that would actually have people using WordPress to, I mean, I feel like what WordPress people are building with WordPress a lot now are corporate sites and like brochure sites and stuff like that. I want to get back to like the weird personal blogs.
Yeah.
And
Well, that would
And
also
having-
solve a lot of the custom post type problem, where you make a custom post type for everything, which is essentially post formats.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
post formats are supposed to be. So what people didn't like about it was that it's a defined list, right, of things. But the point of that is supposed to be so that you can change your theme without penalty.
I mean, I just, instead of wanting a featured image, I wanted to put the YouTube video at top. So when you land on the page, there's just the video that you can watch. And that sounds like any news media outlet in the world is going to have the YouTube video in there. And it'd just be great to embed it there instead of having to embed the YouTube code or get the short code to do it. It sounds like I should be able to do video, URL, and call it a day.
Sure,
You know?
that's like the long-term trajectory of something like the block editor, where eventually, as people become comfortable with it, right, you still have to ease people into it, you have to ramp people in, but as people get used to that concept, right, you expand it to your whole site, but also within the content itself, your featured image, your title, those just become blocks, and you can put them wherever. Right. I think that's really the long-term trajectory of a project like that. And that's where I think it's going to go. I know that some very smart people are working on it, and it's not, we're not alone in thinking these things. Right. So that's what's exciting about projects like that, is that they are taking us in a direction that is hard to get to. It's very painful to go through this process. But I think that we can achieve some really cool things if we make sure that we keep thinking outside of the current paradigms, right? Where we're just thinking about like, okay, I want a document, but we don't. You don't want that. You want something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that, we're done. I want to say thank you very much for Helen for coming on the show and being with us. Really appreciate it.
no,
30
Jason,
minutes
Jason,
flies
Jason,
by
Jason,
so fast.
Jason.
What?
One last thing before you hit that outro button. I gotta shout out that Helen has done bug scrubs on her Twitch channel, which I think is super awesome, and to kind of get into the spirit of what's going on in WordPress core. They are definitely something worth watching. Y'all should check that out. I'll make sure that gets it into the show notes.
Cool. Thanks
Cool.
for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all. You have a good one. Helen, again, thank you very much for being on with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Talk to y'all later. Here's our outro. Go and help us out over on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/WPwatercooler, where you can sponsor and support us over there. There's the fine folks that have been helping us out over there. We really appreciate them. Hit the little subscribe button, click the bell so you're notified of this content and when we go live, just like you did today. And if you don't want to watch us, you just want to listen to us as a podcast, you can do that as well. Go over to WPwatercooler.com/subscribe to learn how to subscribe to this content in audio format. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.